Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Doug Dagnabbit and this is Modern Warzone, and in today's video we're going to be covering the brand new weapon balancing patch update that just has gone live in Warzone. Caldera has been live for about 2 days, and this is the second patch we're seeing. The first patch actually only covered Black Ops Cold War weapons as well as Modern Warfare weapons within the Metaverse game modes such as Plunder and regular Battle Royale on Caldera, the new Warzone Pacific map. Today's update nerfed a ton of things that were pretty much dominant in the Vanguard weapon setup. It didn't cover them all, but we're going to go over them all with you right now, at least the ones you need to know about, because it did shake up the meta of what the Vanguard weapon meta was for these first 2 days. So let's get it started. The first big thing is that they reduced the volume of aerial gameplay elements such as fighter planes, bombing runs, and airstrike kill streaks because they were terrible. The entire audio for certain things such as the airstrike kill streaks need to be adjusted because right now, if you're, I've heard airstrikes from 300 meters away that sound like they're on my head. Let's get through this quick. Gameplay. Fighter planes are no longer able to auto-target parachuting players. So I saw a clip of Doug is Raw on Twitter, and he killed like 20 people in the sky when they first dropped because the airplane automatically would lock on. All you had to do was shoot and fly straight. They fixed multiple bugs. We're not really going to cover that here. And they also are doing something to the weapons big time. And the most notable thing that they're doing is with this update, we have drastically reduced the amount of bloom on all base Vanguard weapons. In the future, we will be removing bloom from Vanguard weapons entirely. This is absolutely huge because bloom was first added in Vanguard. People lost their minds about it and then they nerfed it. If you don't know what bloom is, bloom basically means if you're aiming at something and your sight is directly on it, your bullet's not always going to hit right where that is. Regardless of recoil and all that, if you're shooting right there and that's your first bullet, it should hit right there. With bloom, it does not. It's a random deviation and you have no idea where it's going to go, and it was different between every weapon. Well, they've already drastically reduced that for almost all of the weapons, and they've stated that they will be removing it from Vanguard weapons, which means it'll be out of Warzone entirely. So bravo, Raven Software. Thanks for listening to us with that. That was not a welcome addition to the Warzone formula. Now we're moving into the actual big changes right now, which is going to be assault rifle. The NZ41 is something that I've been preaching since I first started tweeting after the early access period. That's what we were using during those games. That's what I've been using the past 2 days. Absolutely slaps. It's pretty much one of the top tier ARs. Very, very, very strong at medium and close range. Decent at long range, but it's had its neck damage multiplier decreased to 1.3 down from 1.5, and its recoil increased. Now, when I was using this weapon, if you shot about 5, 6, 7 bullets, and then stopped pulling the trigger and then re-engaged, like burst firing, but in a bigger burst, it had like only like this much vertical recoil. And then it started getting crazy. So if you kind of like burst fired it, I haven't got to test myself if that'll be the case after this recoil nerf. But the only damage multiplier they adjusted for it is the neck. So it might still be one of the top tier weapons. We just will have to see. They have already nerfed the flinch resistance of all of the Modern Warfare and Cold War sniper rifles and marksman rifles, but notably today they added the second damage range to the Swiss K31, a minimum damage decreased to 80 down from 95, so 15 total. Neck damage multiplier decreased. The upper torso multiplier has been decreased to 1.7, so it just got nerfs all the way around. Right now, they're trying to put the snipers on par with the Vanguard snipers, obviously. And quite honestly, Kar 98K and the Swiss were way too strong with the current meta and how they're trying to decrease the time to kill or slow down the time to kill within Warzone. Now we're going to move on to submachine guns. A lot of these people weren't even complaining about yet or hadn't discovered as meta. I knew that when I played with Bear Pig day one, he said the Sten felt really, really good, and I've used it a few times. It felt okay, but it's been nerfed now, so let's go through that. So the M1912 is going to be your Thompson. The neck damage multiplier has been decreased to 1.3, and the maximum damage range has been decreased by 140 units, or meters, as I think we would call them, within Warzone. But I didn't really see people complaining about the Thompson, so I'm surprised about that, but that just lets me know that Raven is on top of things even before the community gets on top of them. The Owen gun, which wasn't performing very well, even though you would think it would because it's a hard-hitting medium-range SMG, has actually seen a buff, whereas all the other weapons kind of got a nerf. Maximum damage has been increased to 39, up from 34. The maximum damage range was actually decreased by 175 units. The mid damage range was decreased by almost half, 750 or 650 total units it was decreased by. The headshot damage multiplier has been increased to 1.6, so that's great. The neck damage multiplier has been decreased to 1.2, down from 1.45. Upper torso multiplier decreased. Lower torso multiplier decreased. Left upper arm multiplier, right upper arm multiplier decreased. So it's kind of a buff and a nerf at the same time for this weapon. A lot of its multipliers went down, but also its overall damage at its optimal ranges went up by 5, which is actually a big increase. So we'll just have to see how the Owen gun performs. The PPSH was not even arguably, but it was the best SMG from the Vanguard weapons in Warzone, and it was even dominating on Rebirth Island. It received a hard nerf, and it should have. I'm telling y'all, it was dominant. If you didn't get to use it, I feel bad for you, but you just couldn't. If you didn't have a PPSH and you were in an SMG gunfight, you were not going to win. So moving into that, talking about the PPSH, the maximum damage has been decreased by 4 to 23, down from 27. The mid damage has been decreased by 2 from 22 down to 20. The minimum damage has been decreased to 17, down from 18. Those are all pretty big changes. These are a lot of nerfs happening to this one weapon right now, right after launch. The maximum damage range has been decreased by 100 units, which is from 500 to 400. The mid damage range decreased to 540, down from 900, which is actually a big reduction of 460, almost half. The neck damage multiplier has been decreased from 1.5 to 1.1, so that was probably when you really felt yourself frying with that weapon. And all of the other ones have been slightly reduced, but nothing really that big. Overall, I will have to use the PPSH in game to find out whether it's still meta or not, but I highly doubt it with this big of a change. Its strongest suit is that it has 0 recoil and it has an incredible rate of fire. So those are still 2 strong factors of it, but we'll just have to see how it stacks up against other Vanguard weapons with these changes. The Sten, actually, I wasn't expecting a nerf for this, but like I said earlier, I have heard that it's pretty good. Neck damage multiplier has been decreased by 0.2 to 1.3, down from 1.5. The upper torso damage multiplier has been decreased by 1.06. Lower torso damage multiplier decreased to 1.05, down from 1.1. The Type 100, which is an LMG that a lot of people were telling me was actually very strong. I used some of it on the ground loot. I don't have mine leveled up, but this is actually a pretty big nerf to it. The maximum damage has been... Oh, actually, this is actually a pretty big buff to this. Steve-O, please edit that out. This is actually a pretty big buff to the maximum damage increase to 28 up from 22. So this weapon was already being talked about as being strong, and now they're increasing the max damage of it. The mid damage has been increased by 5, up from 17 to 22. The minimum damage has been increased by 3, up from 15 to 18. And the neck damage multiplier is the only thing that's been nerfed about this weapon, decreased to 1.4, down from 1.6. Now, this update also contained notable changes to attachments, and we're going to go through these very quickly because they're very weapon specific. I'm not going to say the exact number for all of them. The Thompson has had its chariot barrel nerfed with its horizontal and vertical recoil decreased by 2%. The MG42, which is actually a strong option when built right, has had its Krasnik 450 millimeter barrel. Its horizontal recoil control has been decreased by 3%. The VDD has had its horizontal recoil control decreased by 6%. The Sten has also seen a nerf to its SA 65mm rapid barrel, which increased the time to kill, and its fire rate multiplier decreased by 23%, which is a pretty large nerf for that one attachment. Moving on to the foregrips, the Carver foregrip is the only foregrip change thus far, and it's only for the MG42, decreasing the vertical recoil control of it. And I've seen a build that can straight up just be a laser beam with it, so maybe that's what that's addressing. Magazine sizes, there's a lot of changes throughout multiple weapons. The PPSH has had its magazine for its 30-round mags increased to 30, up from 25. The move speed has been increased by 1% for that, and the ADS speed has been increased by 1.7%. The Sten, which has received nerfs in every other category we've talked about, has had its magazine capacity increased to 28 for the ACP 28-round fast mags, which are actually the damaged mags and the only ones for the Sten, so that's a good thing. The Type 100, which we saw earlier, has received some buffs, has had its 30 Russian short 36-round mag increased to 36, up from 30. And I guess they just changed the name, which is why it sounds awkward when I'm reading this. The 8mm Kurz 48-round drums are actually increased to 48, up from 40. And then the 8mm Nambu 20-round mags, the mag capacity has been increased to 30, up from 20. Note the UI text may not reflect the above change in game, so if you see that it doesn't say that in game, don't worry. I'm sure a bunch of guys like JGod, True Game Data, Drifter, Exclusive Ace will have in-depth testing for all of these changes, but I just wanted to get this out to you guys to let you guys know that the meta for Vanguard weapons has changed. Now, I put out a tweet a little bit ago about what I think is going to potentially be the new meta, and I will say two very strong things that they haven't, or a bunch of very strong things that they haven't touched. First of all, I'm going to start off with the automaton because it's an absolute laser beam. I will have a loadout guide coming out for that either tonight or tomorrow, and it's just a beamer. You guys are going to want to use this. I don't really see them nerfing this either because it doesn't kill that fast. It just is extremely, extremely accurate at long range, and you're going to get in a lot of long range engagements on Caldera. The MP40 hasn't been touched. The STG, while not at the top of the class, is still a very, very strong choice. The bar, a lot of people are trying to say that the bar is like meta top tier, but I think the fire rate holds that back a lot at long range engagements, but it hasn't been touched. The combat shotgun, which I'm going to have a loadout guide coming out for as well, either tonight or tomorrow morning, is also absolutely busted and can one-shot anybody who is full health with plates and everything. That's really busted. The akimbo snake shots and the machine pistols also were not touched. Those are absolutely insane as well. And the DP27 is also a very viable option. The MG 42 or 82, whichever model I'm trying to talk about, is actually still a strong option, but it needs a loadout build that can control the recoil for it, and it's only really viable at medium to long range. So I will try to get loadout guides for all of these meta, but I think it's going to shift a lot moving forward. So if you learned anything new today or you learned anything helpful here on today's video, please be sure to drop a like and leave a comment. Make sure in your comment that you say how you're feeling about Caldera and what do you think the meta is going to look like a couple of weeks from now. I appreciate you guys coming by and enjoying today's video. Hope you have a wonderful day.